Good morning. Today we're going to talk about retail layout. Retail layout is the idea of increasing the exposure of merchandise. Increasing the exposure of merchandise, it directly leads to increased profitability. And ultimately, increased profitability is what a retail store wants. There are two retail layouts that I'm going to talk to you today. The first one is grid layout, and the second one is free flow layout. To begin, I'm going to talk about free flow layouts for a couple of minutes. Free flow layout seems very unorganized and doesn't have a lot of structure. However, it has a great visual impact for the customer as well as increases impulse buys. However, it does not use space efficiently and costs a lot of money to upkeep. And sometimes customers can get confused by the organization and the lack of the organization of the free flow layout because there isn't any, and the lack of structure direction. However, they can be very successful for some stores, and an example is the Disney store.
The other type of layout is grid layout. In a grid layout, it needs to be super organized and structured. Power items such as bananas, milk, and bread should be placed in the back of the store so customers have to go throughout the whole store to get to them. That way customers will be more inclined to buy other products throughout the store. And also, complementary items like chips and salsa should be placed next to each other so customers are inclined to purchase them together. High impulse or high margin items are items that the customer did not anticipate to buy when they come in the store. For example, candy is placed in the checkout so when customers are waiting in line, they decide they want to buy candy. Physical surroundings of a service greatly impact the perception of the customer, so it's really important that certain dimensions are met. For example, ambient conditions are conditions that affect the five senses. These are background conditions such as lighting, sound, smell, and temperature. Good lighting would be lighting that illuminates the space, but also sculpts the product and highlights the merchandise. Spatial layout is also really important. That's the way that machinery or equipment is placed throughout the store. And you want that to be functional so that when the customer is walking through the store, they can use these different items in a Signs are explicit signals that communicate information such as labels, directions, or rules for behavior. Symbols and artifacts are more implicit signals that a firm can use to communicate cues to a customer about their environment. So for example, restaurants that have tablecloths are seen a lot higher end than restaurants that do not have tablecloths.
Knowing that product exposure increases sales and profits, many manufacturers will pay retailers to display their products in high exposure areas. This exchange is called retail slotting. Now at the very beginning, it was normally just a one-time payment to get their product on the shelves, and once it became a normal product, they wouldn't have to pay again. Now manufacturers must pay additional fees to keep their products on the shelves. This is because there's limited shelf space and new products are always emerging. Now retail slotting is somewhat controversial, and there are currently two opinions on it. The first opinion believes that it enhances efficiency, while the second one believes that it's just extra income for retailers. As you can see, layout strategy is a very complex process. Organizations must have a thorough understanding of their business. They must research and utilize already standing guidelines, and then decide on a design layout, and then they also must take into account the concept of servicescapes. Finally, they must take a stance on the controversial topic of retail slotting. Once a business addresses these topics, they can develop an effective retail layout strategy that will lengthen product exposure and increase profitability.